it's something special. We've had some amazing figures get the Kovacs Award.
Yeah.
Harry last year was incredible, but this is the first year where they've gone generational.
Yeah.
That must be something unique. That must be something special to showcase all that, obviously, what the Kovacs Awards means, and remembering Ernie and the wild things he would do. But what do you think about just the fact that this is generational now? This affects an entire legacy of a family.
I mean, they're a really unique family in general. There's 3 generations of comedians, which I'd love to ask them questions about that later. But I think what's great about this is that, I'm curious to ask, Bob Elliott, like, tell me your experiences with Kovacs. There's not a lot of people you can talk to that you actually can say, tell me about your interactions, or what was it like at NBC in 1953. So, and then the fact that, Chris Elliott, when I was, let's say, 15 on Letterman, was just like a god to me. I just thought that was like the most bizarre, funny, weird thing, and it's so Kovacs too. So the way he would do the guy under the seats and all that stuff, I just thought, like, he's turning the camera around and he's doing all these crazy things. Like, it's very Kovacian. Yeah, it's great.
Is it crazy? I mean, with Bob especially. I mean, knowing that he does have that connection.
Yeah.
We've not had that before.
Yeah. There aren't many.
Yeah, there aren't many. I mean, it was 62 when we lost Ernie.
Yeah.
Like, boy, what? Not just what are you going to ask, but how does that affect being able to bring in someone that does know Ernie?
Well, it's funny. I've talked to people like George Slaughter, who won an award 2 years ago, and he always has like unique stories about drinking Hungarian wine with Ernie and called it bull's blood, and it was very sort of a thick, heavy, and it's like, you just won't know those things if you don't talk to people that were actually there. And I was born in '68, so I wasn't there. So I'm really curious to hear what he has to say. I mean, even their comedy was very different. Bob and Ray and Ernie, one was a little more, I think, cerebral and verbal and intellectual in some ways, and Ernie's was very visual. But at the same time, I watched some clips. A lot of it seems very improvisational, which is what Ernie was all about. So I'm just curious to find out more about what it was like, in 1953, 54, when you had a television show, and what did people expect, and what did you deliver? I'd love to know all that stuff.
Is it fun to be able to continue the legacy? I mean, you've been able to extend this even further. Not that it wouldn't have lasted, but this gets a light shined on it.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing about the Dallas Video Festival, is that this is the one time every year where we can kind of honestly talk about Ernie and keep his name out there, and that's really why it's so important, because he did pass away in 1962. His stuff is black and white, so there is, a generational thing. So the fact that we can make it modern and current and today, and talk about him with a contemporary and a contemporary son and a granddaughter, I think it's great. I love it.
Can you talk about families? I mean, what your mom brought to us, and how that's been extended, and you're carrying that legacy, and about showcasing the history of it all.
I was always like a comedy nerd. I really loved comedy from when I was very young. I remember my mom buying me cassettes of like National Lampoon, That's Not Funny, That's Sick, or she'd buy me Richard Pryor cassettes, or dating myself with cassettes. Although Cassette Store Day just happened a few days ago, so it's the kids love it.
Young man.
Yeah. But I loved all that stuff, and I wanted to know about early comedy, and Lenny Bruce, and Richard Pryor, and even now I'm still a big nerd about stuff. So I'm really excited to meet Chris Elliott, because I feel like my mom encouraged it, and she didn't actually say, well, go into another field or whatever. And I didn't go into that. I went into music. But at the same time, it's great to be able to, check out all the great comics and all the great comedians that were influenced by Ernie.
Do you think, though, that because she allowed you to listen to that stuff, that it did touch you on that musical note? Because you had to listen to it. You had to hear it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been going to a bunch of record stores here in Dallas and trying to find, I'm the one that wants to go to the miscellaneous section. I don't really go to the rock section. I'm trying to find spoken word and comedy and all that stuff. The great thing about my mom was, she'd say things like, if you swear, be funny. Don't just swear to swear. And to a 12-year-old, I mean, even hearing, a dirty word, you kind of laugh, but she was like, if it's funny, it's funny. It doesn't matter. So even little things like that when you're a kid and you hear your mom say bad words, it's funny, but at the same time, you kind of get an appreciation for the fact that, like, again, Richard Pryor, what he said was not just swearing.
Yeah.
There was a lot of social commentary, a lot of reality to it, and that's what makes it funny, because he made it so personal. It wasn't just swearing to, I don't know, be shocking.
It's not just a word, it's him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I forget the rest of your question, but
that was worth it. We went on a good tangent.
Okay,
I like
all right.
that.
I'm very tangential.
No, it's perfect. What record stores did you go to? What are you telling us?
Well, I went to Good Records.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a place called B4.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. And I went to, today I tried to go to a place called, I can't remember, Shaky something, but it was closed. Even though,
Sunday.
Yeah. But he said, he said he was open, I swear. And I went to, Spin, it's on
The one
Davis.
down? Yeah.
It's a great store.
It's there's some gems in there. Yeah.
That was a great store, yes.
Did you find any gold in any of these?
I did. I found some really cool stuff. I try to buy a lot of used stuff. I like crate digging, that kind of thing, but this is just so nerdy. But yeah, I mean, I do
We're
like
here
a
for
lot
this.
of it.
This is great.
Yeah. So yeah, I did find some good stuff. I mean, a Kinks bootleg here and there, and some weird 7 inches, and it's great.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Chris, one of the things he was just talking about was his parents would say, "That's very Ernie of you."
Oh, really?
When he would do something as a child.
Wow.
What kind of on that theme? What people are continuing that legacy for you? Who do you notice that has that touch, or maybe a part of it?
It's funny. I was watching some stuff online earlier today, kind of in preparation for this, and I realized a lot of stuff is parody, and it's a lot of the moment type stuff. And when you see Chris Elliott or you see Bob and Ray, I mean, I saw a clip of Bob and Ray on The Tonight Show. It looked like it could have been taped today. I mean, they were classy and they were in their suits, and it was great. So I think that the stuff that's timeless, I'm trying to think of like somebody, currently that I love Tim Heidecker. I think he's hysterically funny, and he's great because his comedy is like post-comedy. Like I saw him do a stand-up thing at a benefit that actually I helped put on, and it was like he was doing stand-up but making fun of stand-ups as he was doing his like it was working on like 4 levels, and that's very Ernie to me. I just think like that was, I mean, I was falling down laughing. I was bent over and crying, and my friends are like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm fine." I love Neil Hamburger.
Neil does so much. He does stuff at the Texas Theater. We get to see Neil so often. So that's very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, he dresses like he's from another decade too. Like he holds that persona perfectly.
And I've met Neil, Greg, Turkington, in other ways, and he's the nicest, gentlest, coolest guy. But he makes you just so uncomfortable that it's like, it's just genius that he can do that he can keep your attention and keep you waiting for a laugh for a really long time by either extending a joke really, really long, or clearing his throat for too long, or that stuff is just like, my mom would say Ernie called it the back of the head type stuff, and that's what I think the Tim Heideckers and the Neil Hamburgers and things like that can bring to it. I love them.
Very cool. Is there a story that sticks in your mind always about your mom that just continuously sticks with you, or something she said that you can't get rid of ever?
She was very much, it wasn't so much a story, but it was more like a philosophy. She was very much like, don't let anybody tell you can't do whatever you want to do. She knew I liked to write, and she was saying, you're a good writer and you should write things. And she was very encouraging. Probably, she had more confidence in me than I had in me, I think. But I think she just really kind of kept, she had many peaks and valleys in her life, financial and, personal tragedies and things like that. And she always kind of came through the other side with a sense of humor. And I think that I really took that from her, is that, I saw her at her worst and I saw her at her best, and, the lows are never as low as you think they are, and the highs are never as high. So you just have to try to keep plugging through and, enjoy life as best you can until you can't.
What does VideoFest mean to you?
well, 28 years is a tradition. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I think that, you know, the fact that Bart has been able to keep this going for that long and has had a passion for it to the point where he hasn't even changed the name to VideoFest, I think that's pretty great. But I think what's great about it is that, you know, he can do it in so many different places. I mean, I've been to totally different theaters and different, you know, museums, and, you know, we always seem to get somebody amazing that wants to do the Kovacs stuff, and there's great programs being shown all the time. So tradition and, you know, continuity, I think, is in this world pretty special.
Is it amazing the names you have been able to get because of Kovacs?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people are, there's a reverence there.
Yeah.
Can you talk about just that feeling? I mean, there's something to that.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm very good friends with Joel Hodgson and Paul Rubens and things like that, and that would not have happened without the VideoFest. But it's really weird sometimes when Joel Hodgson will call me on the phone and say, I'm in LA and I've been really busy, but let's go have lunch. And I'm like, you want to have lunch with me? Like, you know, don't you got to talk to somebody a little bit more? And he's like the most down-to-earth, coolest guy. And Paul Rubens is the same way. I mean, he's someone that, like, I honestly could call for, I think, a favor. I mean, I would never call him out of line, but like for a special favor, and he would probably do it because if he's available, he'll do it. But the fact that like Martin Mull and, you know, Terry Gilliam, I mean, that's just like a dream come true. And I will share one funny story. When he came, he'd flown, I think, from London to the Aspen Comedy Film Festival because there was a Monty Python reunion, and then he came here, which was just worked out perfectly. He saw my mom, and I was standing next to my mom, and he like, wow, Edie, my God, he gave her a big kiss. You're so gorgeous. Look at those legs. You're so amazing. And I just was like, Terry Gilliam is talking about my mom. And I just thought, like, where am I going to have that experience? So there's some really great memories, yeah, for sure.
Where does Joel take you for lunch?
Well, the place he took me went out of business, so I think that place is, yeah. But, you know, hey, we can go to Bob's Big Boy, you know, totally, you know, we're
Very
not fancy
cool.
that way, no.
No, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's something, a different side.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Wow.
he's awesome.
So, what can we I don't think we've ever Skyped before either. How about technology?
I know. I was just doing some social media earlier, and I think it's awesome. If it works properly, the way it should, I think it'll be great. And honestly, you know, Bob Elliott was probably not going to travel, so it's great that we can have him here and give him, you know, at least he can visually see what's going on. It's great.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, what can people expect tonight? I mean, what are you hoping to ask? What do you want to talk about?
I really want to ask Chris, being someone who was around funny people a lot, how did he know that he could do it? Because I never really knew. I mean, I thought, but I just never had the guts or the balls or whatever it was. And there must have been 20 writers on the Letterman show at that time. How did he get to a point where he was like, you know what, this is really funny, and I'm going to go out and do this character? I mean, there was no ensemble, there was no group of people, just him, you know, doing his thing. And I really want to know what made him tick. Like, why did you think that would be funny, and why was it funny, I guess?
You know, it's fascinating you say that. He just told me that they were on 3-month contracts. It wasn't even a full year. They were on 3-month contracts, and they used to gauge them on the number of jokes.
Oh my gosh.
Like, not only what you're just saying, but like the pressure of that. Like,
Right.
how to pull that out of your, you know,
Yeah.
backside to just. I can't wait to see what he says.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that, and it's sort of like, you know, is it the quality of the joke, or is it the number of jokes? It's weird that I'm sure some network executive who Ernie loved made some ridiculous determination that that's how it was going to go. And if you didn't pull your weight, if you didn't have 12 jokes per week, then you weren't cutting the mustard. But I'd love to know. Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy. Well, Josh, I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
And we, I think it's really special that we are continuing this to a whole nother level. Like every year it seems bigger and better and more incredible.
I'm no Edie, but I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that everybody wants to have this, and it's great. I love it.
Well, thank you for chatting with us, and let's go check out this Kovacs Award.
Let's do it.